Hello everybody and welcome to the video. So today we're going to look at the Cloud of Unknowing. It's a manual on contemplative prayer. And we're going to look at it through the lens of non-duality because that's what this channel is about. Okay, so it's not going to really be a Christian teaching, although yes, it will also be, because I think all religions point to the same truth, and it's wonderful that Christianity has this sometimes forgotten or sometimes overlooked or sometimes ignored aspect of contemplative prayer, which is very similar to meditation, and the mystical approach to God, which is union with God, understanding this oneness with God. The Christians will say, and I'm a Christian, so Christians will say that it's not the same. So when mystics join with God, it's not the same as identity with God. But even in Advaita Vedanta, it's not identity with God, God with form. It's that you share the same being, you share the same consciousness. We saw this analysis of Tattvamasi, and you are that. And its meaning, the original meaning is that you are God, God with attributes. But clearly you're not God, or clearly I'm not God. And so we take away all the things that don't fit because it comes from the Upanishads, and the Upanishads must be true because it's scripture. So we take away everything that doesn't fit, and we're left with the ground of being this consciousness. As Krishna said in the Bhagavad Gita, that he was looking out of everybody's eyes on the battlefield. And Meister Eckhart also said that the eye that I look at God is the same eye that God looks at me. It's the same ground of being, and we share the same ground, is Meister Eckhart's teaching. And because he points out with the eye, this is consciousness. So the same consciousness that God has is the same consciousness that you have. But superficially, you're not the same. I can't shoot thunderbolts out of my fingers or lightning out of my fingers. Clearly, I'm not God. But we are the same thing at the deepest level, and this union with God is the same thing that we are aiming for in Advaita Vedanta non-duality. Enlightenment is the realization that the separate self is false, and that doesn't really exist. And you are, when you remove the separate self, you remove everything. We see this in with Ramana Maharshi, where he said, remove the I thought, cut down the I thought, and then everything, the whole world, all the conceptual world collapses, because everything is filtered. The root is the I thought. And that's the same with the Cloud of Unknowing. So at one point it says that sins may arise, and sin means error. It's from the Greek, meaning that you miss the mark. So this error, just the same errors in Advaita Vedanta, you're confused and you're making errors, you're committing errors. The root of that error is original sin, in the same way that the root of all illusion is the I thought. Now, the original sin, if you think, what is original sin? I mean, it sounds like a horrible thing, and I'm sure the centuries for centuries the church oppressed people because they felt that they were rubbish and terrible because of original sin. But original sin, if you think it comes from Adam and Eve, what were Adam and Eve? But they were the first time that we became separate from God. It was the first time the separate self was created. So in some ways, original sin is the actual separation from God and the root of the illusion that we are not separate from God. So this contemplative prayer is to lead us into a union with God. Now, the Cloud of Unknowing is called the Cloud of Unknowing because it takes the view that God cannot be understood in any way. So there's the idea of trying to reach God through thought, through concepts, God with form. And then there's the idea that you cannot reach God. Negative theology. What's it called? Cataphatic. No, apophatic. Apophatic theology, where it's God is not this, is not this, is not this, is not this. And really, they include lots of other things that sound quite good, like the creator is not the creator, is not the... And the cataphatic, sorry for that, but is the idea that it's a theology where the one that we all know, God is wonderful and great and omnipotent, omnipotent, and people in this path, they pray for their sins and they pray for other people, and they contemplate the life of Jesus, the passion, and things like that. But the Cloud of Unknowing says that that's all lower types of prayer, and this higher type of prayer, contemplative prayer, is basically a type of meditation. You have the cloud of forgetting, which is like a bag that you put all your thoughts in, all your concepts, thoughts, not only about God, but also about the world, and just try not to think about stuff, basically. And you sit there, and the cloud of unknowing is between you and God. So you just aim at that. Now, how do we do that? So the aiming, your intention towards God. So we're not going to use the intellect to reach God. We're going to use love. And where the intellect has to work conceptually, and concepts limit God, which means it's impossible to understand God through concepts, love can embrace God. And it's a love that has no... it's a blind love, because you can't think, okay, I'm sitting here in contemplation, I love God, God is wonderful. No, none of that, because that's all still putting names to God. You just have to sit, and this type of love is not really it's not emotional love, it's not superficial, sentimental, but it is deep, and you may not be a Christian, you may be watching this because you're interested in the other videos about Advaita Vedanta or idealism, but you have an interest in truth. You have an interest in spirituality, maybe it's a bad word for it, but you have an interest in this thing that's here. You have a hunch that there is something that now it's time for you to discover. And you have a pull towards that. And that kind of unknown reason why you're watching my videos, and also reading lots of other books and watching other people's videos, etc., being on this path, is because you have this love. That's the love that you need. And so when we sit in contemplation or meditation, it's not a mental thing. So you don't have to think, okay, I'm aiming and God. You should try to avoid any distractions. And really, you are actually abiding in this love of God, this thing that's here, that is naturally here. And you don't need to name it, and you don't need to find it. But sitting and abiding in this, like abiding in the present, we could say, from a more, secular way. This is connecting to what's truly here. And in this way, without the thought that gets in your way, you can embrace God and connect, have union with God. You might get sins coming up, as it's called sins in the book, the Cloud of Unknowing. We might say they're trauma, feelings of guilt and things you've done, but it's all connected to the separate self. It's all rooted in this separation of God from God, and this will dissolve. The original sin doesn't dissolve apparently until you die, in the same way that your body doesn't disappear as soon as you gain enlightenment. Your body continues until it uses up the karma for that life. In the same way, you it will dissolve all of the illusion. You will understand, but you will still have the separation as a separate person. So that will be maintained, but you'll understand this unity with God. And apparently you get lots of other benefits, like your friends their lives start improving, and you become beautiful in body and mind, and all these other things. Now, you may find it difficult, as other people who have tried meditating will know, it's really difficult to not think about anything. So the book suggests using a prayer word, something short. It suggests one syllable. It needn't really be one syllable, though, such as God or love or even sin, surprisingly, because remember, we have no concept of what God is. So we're just repeating this meaningful word. I would avoid sin, though, because then you get into, the type of Christian theology where you're just flagellating yourself, and it's maybe love or God or Om, if you prefer. It's not really a mantra, because mantras are supposed to actually have a real meaning, a real energy, because of the vibrations and the holy language. And so it's not really quite the same as mantras. They are just meaningful words. Not meaningful intellectually, but something that you have a connection to, that's something that would be able to keep the distractions at bay. And you just need to persevere. The book says it calls it a work. In this work, and it really is just working at this daily practice, persevering, being patient. And when we sit, it's because you're not aiming at anything. It's kind of like waiting. And I really like how Jean Klein talks about waiting without waiting. And somebody put on a video that I made about that. He was French, and he pointed out that waiting is the same word as expecting in French, and it is in Spanish too. So wait, esperar, and expect, hope, and just wait 5 minutes. It's all the same word, esperar. And so you could say that it's waiting without expecting, but I actually prefer just waiting without waiting for anything. This idea that Jean Klein says, is you follow, when you read a poem, you follow it from the beginning to the end. Or when you're listening to a piece of music, you follow every note. And that's what we do. We stay with the present moment. We stay with this being present. This also reflects in some of the Bible, where is it a parable where Jesus said, you should stay awake because you don't know when the master's coming. And that's the same thing. You have to wait. You have to stay awake, stay alert, be in the present. Don't lose yourself in the artificial false reality that we construct, this narrative that tortures us, where we have things to achieve when we are in fact the ultimate reality. And I was going to say we are God, but maybe we won't go that far. We are the Godhead. That's what Meister Eckhart calls it. So we are existence itself. You are existence itself. You are the thing that looks out of Krishna's eyes, out of Jesus's eyes, you are the consciousness in which everything arises, the thing without a second, unlimited in time, space, and object. And in the Bible, when Jesus was asked, what's the most important commandment? It's love God. The first one is love God more than anything. And that's what we're doing here. We are resting in the love of God, a God who is beyond our understanding. So we can't name what it is. And also the second commandment, to love your brother as yourself? Is it your brother or your neighbor? Love your neighbor as yourself. And what's that say? That says that there's another non-dual message too. So maybe I didn't do too much about the Cloud of the Unknowing, but he was a 14th century monk. He was an English Catholic monk. We don't have much information about him, but it's a beautiful book. It's not very big. You can hear various different versions online. A lot of the Christian talks about it. If you're not a Christian, you may cringe a little. Maybe not cringe, but you may have an allergic reaction to some of them. as somebody recently put in one of my comments, an allergic reaction to God. So maybe keep away from those. But try this meditation. It's probably the same as any meditation you're doing already. Thank you very much for watching the video. Goodbye.